What's up guys, Velo here back again with another video, and today we are in creative mode and we're talking about the storm, specifically the advanced storm options. And I want to start by just showing you guys how the storm operates and how you can use the beacons to determine where the storm is going to move, how fast it's going to move, how much damage it's going to do, and so on. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to open up our inventory. Make sure you click on creative, and then underneath devices, you guys are going to see these two options, the advanced storm controller. You can just go ahead and equip that, and then the advanced storm beacon. You're going to need both of these. Go ahead and equip that as well. Then you can go back and then just hit whatever corresponding button you see down there for your advanced storm controller. And what I like to do is change it to grid snap 1, just so it's going to go directly in the middle of whichever box it is that we're going to use. In this case, I'm going to put it right here, and then we're going to go ahead and hit the button for our advanced storm beacon. And same thing, guys, I like to just put it on grid snap 1. I'm going to put drops on because I want to drop it right on top, and I'm going to show you guys why we're going to do that here in a moment. So for this demonstration, just to show you guys how all of this works, let's go ahead and come down to the storm controller, generate storm on game start. We want that to happen. In this case, storm phase, you could leave it on default if you're not going to have more than 10 phases, because it will actually be overridden, as you can read in the bottom, by the advanced storm beacons. But I just go ahead and switch that to custom to be safe. Phase 1 radius, we're going to set this to 100 meters for this demonstration. You guys are going to see how this behaves here in a moment. I think it's easier to show than it is to explain. The delay time is how long it's going to take before phase 1 begins. We're just going to put that on none. On finish behavior, we're going to leave this on stay. Bound radius, this is setting the radius. If you just read the bottom, the storm will never leave this bounding sphere, right? So we're going to go ahead and set this to, we can leave it at 100 meters for this one. And for this, we're not going to use any of these channels. We're just going to leave that as is. But if you are more advanced and you want to use those, you absolutely can. So go ahead and hit OK. Always make sure you hit OK. If you just exit out and you hit your escape button or whatever your back button is, it will delete all of those settings that you just changed. All right, so for the first storm beacon, what you're going to want to do is make sure that it says phase 1. The end radius, we're going to set that to whatever we set the phase 1 radius in the storm controller, which was 100 meters. Wait time, let's go ahead and just put this on 5 seconds right now, just so you can kind of see how that works, because this is how long it's going to wait before the next zone, before the next phase of the storm. Resize time, how long is it going to take for the next phase to resize? Let's go ahead and make this 15 seconds for this demonstration, but you guys can make it whatever you want. The damage volume, this is going to be how much damage it does to your player when you're in the storm during this phase. You know, if you're doing Zone Wars, usually you're going to have that on 5 tick, maybe 10 tick. It's totally up to you. We're going to go ahead and leave it on 5 for here. And then movement behavior, we want this to move to beacon, okay? The first phase, we want it to move to beacon. These two options don't apply when you have move to beacon selected. This is more for if you're doing random behaviors, which we're going to talk about the pros and cons of that here in just a moment. Again, go ahead and hit OK. Now what we can do is add another beacon. Just go ahead and copy and paste this, put it right above. This is going to be phase 2, and for me, phase 2 is when the action starts, okay? So what I want to do is I want to set the radius of this to make sure that it includes all of my spawn pads, okay? This is the radius that everybody is going to spawn within this radius. It's very important, okay? You want to make sure that it says phase 2. The end radius for this demonstration is going to be 50 meters, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. Wait time is going to be how long until the next zone begins, and then the resize time, how long that zone takes to close. We're going to go ahead and leave that damage volume at 5%, and for this demonstration we're going to do move to beacon, hit OK. You guys see these little black bars that I have out here? These are separated by 10 meters, okay? So a 50 meter radius, which is going to be this phase 2, would be 5 bars out all the way there on the end, okay? So if we go ahead and start the game really quick, if you want to hang out with us live, I stream 5 to 6 nights a week over at twitch.tv/velostinks. Head on over there, click the follow button. Let's get back into the video. And I pull up the map here, you guys are gonna see, all right? The storm is 100 meters out, right? That was phase 1. Phase 2, 50 meters out, is taking 15 seconds to close. And you can see 50 meters, the radius, 50 meters out from center. So that'll be phase 2. So you want all of your spawn pads to be inside this circle. Let's go ahead and end the game so we can continue. Does everybody understand what I mean by you want all of your spawn pads? I'm talking about for Zone Wars, right? If you're not using this for Zone Wars, then you can be creative with it. But if you want everybody to start inside the circle and not somebody starting out in the storm, which that would be cruel and unusual, you want to make sure that they are inside that radius, whatever that is, and for this case it's 50 meters. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, just to show you guys how these behave, let's go ahead and copy this. Let's make a phase 3, 4, and Let's do 5. So now we have, this is phase 1, right? These kind of link together. Phase 1, which was that 100-meter radius that we started with, it closed down to 50 meters, which is where we have all of our spawn pads inside of there. We're gonna make sure that this says phase 3, and let's go ahead and just bring it down to 40 so you can see how all of this happens. We can leave all the rest the same because we're gonna leave move to beacon. Make sure this one is 4 at 30 meters and 5 at 20 meters. All right, so let's go ahead and start the game, and now you can see how the storm is behaving if we have move to beacon selected. The game starts, I go ahead and pull up my map. Right now we're in phase 1, right? 100 meters is where it starts. Now phase 2 begins, it closes down. It takes 15 seconds to do so because that's what we set it at. We're 50 meters out here. The next storm is going to be 40 meters. It's going to pause for 5 seconds. That's the wait time. And then it's going to take 15 seconds to close. I went ahead and sped that up for you guys so you don't have to sit through the 15 seconds of closing time every time. But now you guys can see 15 seconds again, we're closing down to that zone 4, which was the 30-meter zone, and then finally we're gonna go down to the 20-meter zone, but you can see how it's getting smaller and smaller based off of the selections that we made. And there we have, that was zone 5 or phase 5, which is that 20-meter radius zone. So it's 20 meters from the center, guys. All right, let's go ahead and end game. Now you guys don't have to go in that order: 40 meters, 30 meters, 20 meters, 10 meters. In fact, in the game itself, the zones usually cut in half, right? So if you started with a 100-meter zone, then you go to 50, and then there's not a 25 option, but to 30, and then 10, and then 5, and so forth, okay? What we're gonna do here is we're gonna go ahead and just finish this cycle, right? We're gonna make phase 6, phase 7, and phase 8. So let's go ahead and make this phase 6, 10 meters. We're gonna leave all of this stuff the same. Phase 7, 5 meters. And phase 8 is going to be 0. Now it's important though that you have one more phase after your 0. This more has to do with if you're doing random zone moving zones, but I always like to add one more. We're just gonna copy this. We're gonna call this one phase 9 and just leave it on 0. That's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the game. And you guys now know how this is going to behave. If we go ahead and pull up the map, we're gonna start at 100 down to 50. I'm gonna speed this up so you guys can see it all happen really quickly. And then we're gonna talk about what happens if you do a random moving zone. All right, so we have the 10-meter zone. Now it's coming down to a 5-meter zone. And then from here, remember guys, that last zone is gonna close completely. And because we have all of our beacons on this spot, right? They were all stacked up above where I'm standing now. That's where it's gonna converge because we have it on move to beacon, right? So this last zone will finish right here. All right, so I know what you guys are thinking. You don't want to have that predictable of a zone, and you don't want them all just to keep coming into the middle, or maybe you do. But let's talk a little bit more about the random zones. There is, for me personally, it's glitchy. There are some issues with it, okay? But you can go ahead and use these settings if you want to. I suggest if you want to do random moving zones, you want to start small and then gradually build out, because sometimes Epic has a mind of its own, and although you say, hey, only move 5 meters, it moves 30 meters, and there's no real rhyme or reason as to why it does that. But this is how you're gonna do it. Leave phase 1 and phase 2 alone, right? Because remember, phase 2 is that 50-meter radius in this case, where everyone's going to spawn. But what you can do for phase 3 is you can change it to move randomly, and now you have to set the move distance minimum and move distance maximum, right? This is the distance that is going to move from the last zone. So in this case, this is going to be a 40-meter zone when it finishes. I would suggest, depends on what level it is that you guys are doing, but I would suggest having your minimum move distance about 25% of that, and then your maximum move distance, you could do 40 meters. I would suggest going one under that personally, okay? So let's go ahead and hit okay. Come up to the next zone. We're gonna change this one also to move randomly. 25% of 30. For our minimum, we could leave it at 10 because we don't have 7.5. So we can leave this at 10, and then the move distance maximum, let's go ahead and be conservative, bring that down to 20. Next zone, again, we're gonna keep this process going, guys. This zone is 20 meters, so we want the minimum move distance to be 25% of that. For me personally, again, you guys can play with this. 5 meters, maximum moves this distance. We're gonna go one step down from our ending radius, which will be 10 meters. Hit okay. Move randomly. This is a 10-meter zone. I'm just gonna put it on 0 as the minimum, and then put 5 as the maximum. Move randomly. This is a 5-meter zone. We're gonna do the same thing, 0 and 5. 0-meter zone. I'm just gonna leave this as 0 and 0. Again, move randomly. Make sure you have that. And then move randomly, 0, 0. So now let's go ahead and start the game and see what happens. All right, so because we have the first zone set to move to beacon, right? This is phase 1, closing in on phase 2. It's still that 50-meter zone that we wanted, right? Because all of our spawn pads are going to be inside of here if you're doing Zone Wars, right? Let's just go ahead and mark where we were standing, run to the middle of the new zone. It moved about 20 meters. Now we have phase 4. Again, not a very bad movement. Again, it's random, right? Because you're setting that range. This might have been closer to the minimum distance movement than the maximum. You guys can toy with it based on how advanced you want your Zone Wars game to be. Here we got phase 5, phase 6. And you can see these aren't too bad. The distance that these are moving right now, it's not too bad. But I'm telling you, I've done random moving zones in my Zone Wars maps, and sometimes Epic will just get up and go. I don't know. It looks like it's working how it's supposed to right now. I wish I could give you a better example, but it's something that you guys are just gonna have to toy around with and dial it into your needs and what you want out of your Zone Wars map. So the last one we had moving 0, so hopefully it'll just close on us here, which looks like it's what it's doing. It is moving a little bit. That's not too bad. And there you have it, guys. So that is a random moving zone. You guys can tool around with those minimum and maximums to make it more advanced or less advanced based on your needs. But what I suggest, let's go ahead and jump into a game, because this is probably going to be the most consistent way to do a Zone Wars map. And this is going to be a lot more like Downhill River and some of these maps that you guys have played in the past. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and create a brand new island. Let's go ahead and choose this volcano island. All right, so we're on our volcano island, and it's going to depend, right? It's creative, guys. It's going to depend on what you're trying to accomplish and how difficult you want your Zone Wars to be. But for this example, I think it would be cool if we spawned all our players kind of in this area, had them go like down this hill, over the beach, up this hill, you know, had some varying levels of elevation, and then ended out in the water. And this is how we're going to go ahead and do that. Let's just go ahead and put all of our spawn pads. You would place 16 if you were making a Zone Wars map, but just for time's sake, I'm going to just put 1 spawn pad here. Keep in mind, you want all of your spawn pads to be inside that phase 2 circle, which we're going to set here at 50 meters, and I'm going to show you guys that in just a second. All right, so we have my spawn pad right here. Let's go ahead and pull out that storm beacon. We're going to go ahead and do the advanced storm controller, place that right here. And then let's go ahead and get an advanced storm beacon. Let's put it right on top, put drops on so it lands just like that, okay? So remember, this is phase 1, guys. What we're gonna do is just like we did before, generate storm on game start. Yes, storm phase. We're just gonna be safe and change that to custom. Phase 1 radius, we're gonna do 100 meters, just like we did in the first example. Delay time, none. All of this is gonna stay the same. Bound radius, we can put that at 100 as well. Leave all the stuff like this alone. And then our phase 1 beacon, we want this end radius to be 100 meters, just like we set for the controller. Wait time, let's go ahead and do 5 seconds. Resize time, we'll do 15 seconds. Damage volume, 5%. And then the movement behavior, we want this to move to beacon, guys, okay? We want it to move to beacon. We're gonna go ahead and duplicate this, put it on top. And now this is going to be phase 2, and this is going to be where everyone's going to spawn, inside of the perimeter, inside the radius of phase 2, which we're going to set for this case 50 meters, 5-second wait time. And now the resize time, guys, the resize time refers to the next zone, okay? So this is something that we might change when we show you a different example on how to do this, okay? So let's leave this alone for right now. I'm gonna show you guys it. We'll come back to it in a second, but make sure it's move to beacon, hit okay. All right, so now when we start the game, it'll start, the storm will be 100 meters, it'll close, it'll take 15 seconds to get to our 50-meter radius, which you guys can see here, right? This purple ring, and you want all of your spawn pads to be inside of here. If that's not enough space, you can make it bigger. Okay, you can make it bigger. What I would suggest, because I'm not a big fan of the random moving zones just because they can be a little buggy, right? What I would suggest would be having a phase that you put wherever it is that you want your players to have to go in this Zone Wars. And like I described before, we want to take them all the way across the island. Now you could do this in stages, right? You could put another beacon, say here and then up there. But what I'm gonna do, it's gonna be super simple. We're just gonna go ahead and copy this phase right here. We're gonna take it all the way across. I think this would be a good route, maybe up over this hill roughly, and then finish them out here in the water like this. I'm actually gonna turn drops off just so this doesn't fall down here. Good. All right, so let's go ahead and make this phase 3. Now I would suggest making the end radius not 0 just yet, and I'm gonna show you why. Let's go ahead and make the end radius something like 5 meters, and the wait time we can make that 0, and then the resize, let's go ahead and put that at 15 seconds also, and have this on move to beacon, guys. Now we want a phase 4, okay? What's gonna happen is whatever duration we set on that phase 2 beacon, we're gonna show you guys that in a second. It's probably going to be 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. It's going to take that long for the storm to not only change from 50 meters down to 10, but it's going to take that amount of time to travel across the island, and it's going to get to here, right? So what we want once it gets here is to get to like that final, you know, showdown where it's going to close completely. So let's just go ahead and duplicate this, and we can go ahead and put it right on top of the other one. Call this one phase 4. End radius 0, and same thing, we can leave this all the same. Move to beacon, that's fine. And then, like I said, I always like to have one more phase after my last phase, okay? One more phase after my last phase. So we're gonna put this one up here and make it phase 5, 0, 0, 15's fine, hit okay. So now, let's determine how long we need to set for that phase 2 to close, okay? So we'll go back over to our phase 2 beacon. This is quite a long ways to travel, guys. Quite a long ways to travel. So we might want to do, I don't know, let's say 2 minutes. All right, we're going to change this resize time to 2 minutes. Hit OK. And now when I start the game, we spawn on our spawn pad inside of that 100-meter storm right now. That's going to converge for 15 seconds onto our 50-meter zone. Guys, make sure you have all of your spawn pads inside of here. Would not be fair if little Timmy had to spawn outside of there. Anyway, so now phase 3, we put it somewhere out here. Should be able to see where this is. And keep in mind, you guys can put a beacon here. You can put a beacon here. You can like move with it. But in this demonstration, we're just doing the one like I showed you guys. And you can see that storm starting to move and the route that that's going to take. You can adjust the duration, and you could also adjust the distance based on how fast you want the zone to move, and of course, you know, which route you want it to take. But I kind of like this, that you have to go down and up and over. I think it's good. It's going to be a little bit more realistic to an in-game situation, just because you never know when you're going to have to be going uphill, downhill, side to side, etc. If you guys are finding this video helpful and you want to do me a solid, leave a like on this video. It really helps me out a lot. I'm on a mission right now to be a full-time content creator, guys, spreading positivity and kindness. We're on a mission, and if you want to help me out with that little like, you don't think it means a lot, it means so much. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I really would appreciate that. And now you guys can see the zone is starting to make its way down the hill and out into the water. I like this too because it forces the players that are going just playing on height, they have to start making their way down, right? Because if they get out over this beach, they're gonna get shot down and die, right? So it does get a little quick here at the end, guys. This is why, one of the reasons you might consider having a few different beacons along the way to slow it down, or you could adjust the time. But now you can see we're almost closing in here, 4 seconds until we get to phase 4. And now phase 4, it's just going to start slowly closing in here for about 15 seconds, ultimately closing all the way, and then the game would end. All right, guys, well, thanks for stopping by. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.